we also didn't mention it's also about organic fertilizer, for instance. It's very important. That's from the guidance question. So it's not just a dangerous animal, it's also an important element in our ecosystem. So for the NDCs, move to the next one. So we're looking at our updated NDCs, the ambition areas. We have about 8 ambition areas, and one of them is about the gases. So adopted gas specific targets, and this is where methane and black carbon actually comes in. So there are a number of gases that the NDCs are looking at by sector. We are not doing economy-wide emission target. We are looking at sector-wide targets, emission-wide targets. So we are looking at methane in this context, but I have to, let me ask this question first. How many of you are aware of our NDCs? Don't say that. At least, so that will determine the speed with which I'll go with the explanations. Yeah, because I know a lot of faces are familiar with the NDCs. But you see, somebody was saying EPA. EPA is not the only policy institution in the country. So, Eric, stop that. So, when we were developing the NDCs, it was placed within, because it's a long-term, it's a 10-year emission and then adaptation targets, 2020 to 2030. And so it has to be placed within national policy context from different sectors. And then the NDPC becomes a central policy institution that drives the NDCs. We have other policies like the infrastructure plan, the medium-term plans, the coordinated programs, Ghana Beyond Aid Charter. I don't know whether that thing is still living there. And then also COVID-19 alleviation and revitalization of enterprises support, which is supposed to end in 2026. All these and in more other policies were actually looked at when we're developing the NDCs. The structure of it, in terms of the pie that you see here, you see the activities they are broader at the base, and then you have the program of actions, then you have the policy actions, the sector targets, and then the contribution targets. At the end of the day, they're supposed to address some core sustainable development goals. So they are not just climate actions, but they are actions that are supporting development agenda in the country. 47 program of actions from 19 policy actions within 11 sectors with 8 socioeconomic outcomes, looking at the budget within a range of 9.3 to 15.5 billion for a period of 10 years. So those are the highlights. What are we expecting to achieve? By the end of the 10-year commitment period, because we have actually committed this as part of our contributions to the achievement of the temperature goal. And so by the end of 2030, we expect that we'll be able to reduce our emissions by 64 million tons. So CO2 equivalent, so all the other gases, the 6 IPCC gases, CO2 equivalent, 64 million. We are also trying to avoid deaths related to emissions, and this could account up to 2,900, and then over 1 million jobs, and then 39 million beneficiaries. Somebody, before you ask a question, because our population is less than 39 million, so why are you talking of? So this is cumulative. So like I benefit this year. I'm counted today, this year, 1. So next year, when I have the opportunity to have the same benefit, I'm counted again. so that you don't ask me at the end of the presentation. So I've already answered that question. The 47 program of actions, 13 of them are adaptation, 34 of them are mitigation. Out of the 13, we have seven unconditional. I will explain for those who don't know the conditional and the unconditional. And then 6 are conditional. For the mitigation, 9 unconditional and then 25 conditional. From the 9 unconditional, we're looking at 25 million tons by 2030. And from the 25 conditional, we look at 39.4 million tons. And out of this 39.4 million tons, we want to trade 23 million tons through carbon market processes. So the conditional ones are those ones that we are depending on financial resources outside the government budget to be able to address those things. So it can come from the private sector, it can come from the international sources, whichever sources that is outside the main government budget. Then the unconditional ones are the ones that, through the sector's own activities, they are willing to address. In terms of socioeconomic outcomes, we're looking at social inclusion, early warning, resilience building, food and land restoration, smart communities, sustainable mobility, sustainable energy transition, which I've just been mentioned this morning, and then responsible production. The sectors, as I mentioned, water resources, health, communication, interior, works and housing, agriculture, forestry. Remember, Doc mentioned AFOLU. So AFOLU is an IPCC categorization. And so you break it down. So you have agriculture as part of the AFOLU that you mentioned, and then also forestry and other land use. And so that is the AFOLU that you saw from Doc's presentation. And then we're looking at energy, transportation, industry, and then also social protection and gender. So the 34 million, the 34 mitigation measures, as I mentioned, I indicated that we are trading 24 million tons. For transport sector, we are looking at 3 unconditional activities and then 2 conditional measures. Energy 5 unconditional, and then 15. If you take the NDCs, I think you can just get the breakdown. All of them are spelled out in the NDCs. Forestry 3 unconditional, 2 conditional. Waste 1 unconditional, 2 conditional. And then refrigeration and then air conditioning, the RAC sector, we're looking at 1 conditional. So this is where probably I will spend a little time. For the energy, clean cook stove, so wood logs, efficient cleans, LPG stoves, and so on and so forth. This is an area that we can do much when it comes to methane activities. In fact, almost all of them, but my focus was depending on the processes that we engage, some methane capture and storage can be done. We expect to do more of this at the agri sector in terms of rice, in terms of cattle. So we look at the enteric fermentation as Doc mentioned. There's currently a project under the carbon trading system on rice, sustainable rice production, where farmers are being encouraged to reduce the amount of water. You know, when water stays longer, it decomposes and then it generates a lot of methane. He has already talked through all these things. I don't want to repeat what has already been said. Just to highlight that the NDCs is also taking consideration of those activities. We are also looking at the oil sector, which Ghana is a major player within the sub-region. How can we be able to, because as it stands now, we play most of the gases, especially when it comes to, there's something we call emergency flaring, where when the systems are so heavy that they needed space to be able to produce, we have to flare. And they come for permit from the EPA and then flare. It shouldn't be, it's not sustainable. So there should be measures to be able to capture and then store this for something else that can be useful for the country. The transport sector also is a sector that has some methane activities associated with it. So the various sectors have actually aligned their programs to be able to do some form of what gas, either avoiding them or reducing the emission of those gases. For the forest sector, for example, there's a lot of wildfire in this country, which normally we don't, when we are counting some of these issues, we don't talk about them. There's a huge methane element associated with wildfire, and therefore it's important that we try to prevent these things from happening so that we can be able to also reduce methane emissions. Compost has been mentioned. In fact, this is where the objective of the NDCs is to actually do institutional biogas. That is what the sector, the waste sector, are saying they are going to do. We, the EPA, we coordinate the NDCs. We are not the implementing institutions. The issues are coming from the various sectors, and then we coordinate and then provide guidance in terms of mobilization of finances so that they can be able to do. There's some laudable activities within this sector, but they want to actually use the existing secondary schools or second cycle institutions, their toilet facilities to actually reduce methane in these schools, which is laudable. As whether we'll be able to do, it's an issue of what financing. I've talked about compost and then also landfill gas management, which is, but every city in this country just dump all the cities in the country, including Kumasi, Accra, Secretary Accra, where they tested scientific landfill sites. They are not functioning in Kumasi, in Accra. And so I have heard that Zoom Lion is now investing in this sector heavily. And so we are praying, because it's coming from a private sector, probably it's going to work. And this is also aligned with the carbon trading. And so there's an incentive to do that. And so if that actually also happens, then we'll be able to also reduce chunk amount of methane gas coming from this sector. I think you don't need this one. This is just to tell you that the NDCs are connected. The codes, we only know, we have the names of the codes. So, but it's talking about the sustainability element of NDC that we have. So why methane? He had already said that, but let me also repeat by saying that methane is a gas that is found in small quantity, but it has a very serious global warming potential, as it has already been mentioned. It's CH4. So in chemistry, it has carbon and then also 4 elements of what? Hydrocarbons. 3 elements of hydrocarbon. That's why I have C and then what? H4. So anytime you see the CH4, it's representing carbon and then hydrocarbons, some elements of hydrocarbons. And so it is very powerful, because anything that has to do with hydrocarbon is flammable and it's dangerous. That's why it's important. We have to take it with all seriousness. It's a greenhouse gas, you know. The impact, as I said, is about 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide when you put it in a 20-year time scale. But on a 100-year time scale, it is what? 28 to 34%. Let's move on. So this is not Ghana. So this that you see has so much to talk about when you actually want to talk about the natural process and methane emission in this thing that we are talking about. So this is a wildfire, and we have more of these in our country. So the sources are varied. We have already identified a number of them that you have already seen from the previous presentation. So what is our concern as a country? Methane has contributed about 1/3 of the current anthropogenic greenhouse gas driven warming. So globally, it's something that we need to pay attention to. It enters the atmosphere due to leaks that Doc talked about. And then also about 2% of the global financing today is now diverted. And I think we need more because it's a short-lived, and therefore, if we focus on that gas, we can be able to do better for the atmosphere. And so it's important that we change our financing strategy and then come out with projects or programs that will do more of methane, maybe than the other gases. If the global methane pledge is not adhered to, methane emission will likely increase by 13% by 2030. This has already been said by Dr. Mutala. Okay, so our focus as a country will continue mitigating methane and other short-lived climate pollutants in line with our national effort to achieving decarbonization. Again, by developing national action plans and strategies that identify specific actions to encourage emission reduction, define timelines, then also assess needed resources that will go with implementation. So your suggestions are also welcome. There are any areas that you think you can identify and then help us to get money to do programs and projects in this area, we'll be grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Doc. So Doc has taken us to our NDCs and what they've said or has on methane. Yes, a lot of us haven't taken note of that. And Doc, thank you so much for the clarity on that. Do we have any questions for Doc? Okay, I think the microphone is with you, Sample. Okay.
No. Thank you very much, Doc, for the insightful presentation. I think my question is that, I mean, when we look at the program outline, we have an aspect or a session where we'll be talking about opportunities for civil society in the space, especially in action towards gain. In your presentation, you mentioned the potential for carbon credits and all that, and we've seen quite a number of private sector going into taking advantage of this. Even though we've seen our own brother, Dr. Vijay, taking lead in assessing some funds to support the capacity of civil society towards the assessing resources and also working on critical projects to support action. But I would like to take this advantage, especially as you are here, you may leave us any moment soon. What do you think are opportunities in there for civil society organizations? I think that beyond the advocacies that we are doing, and also beyond some of the projects that we implement at the community level, as Doc, with the NDCs, when we're talking about this practice, they identify that there are some core areas within the NDC that Ghana is being focused on. So first, I want to know the core areas. And the second question, why is it that we are so much focused on the atmospheric and concentration of methane and not focusing on the ground level emission or ground level pollution? Recently, from my perspective, you could see that there's so much heat in urban areas, which is called the urban heat effect. So this can be as a result of the various emissions from the various
source. So what are we also doing in the various urban areas or in our own way to reduce the emissions and temperatures at the ground level and concentration of greenhouse gas and temperatures? Thank you.
So thank you very much. Mentioning the cost on the NDC, you talk of something close to 10 billion. Is it in seats or in dollars? And also, in terms of the appropriation, how are we going to derive that 10 billion? Will private sector play a role? Is civil society going to play a role in that order? Because sometimes, looking at our current economic woes, you can imagine. The rest is up for us to discuss.
All right, Doctor.
Okay, so let me start with the last part. So the figures are, I think, 9.3 to 15.6 billion. It's not even 10, it's more than 10. And it's in US dollars, not Zimbabwean dollars. So United States America's dollar, the most powerful. Okay, so the issue is that if you look at our previous NDC, the NDC one, I think we even had a higher figure. It was around, I think, 22 billion US dollars. Even though we have revised the targets, and then the ambition in this one is higher, the cost is a little bit lower. The reason being that the first one, because every country was just trying, a lot of the things that we did were estimates that were not, maybe, let me say, science-based. So a lot of the figures in the first NDC could not be justified. This one, I think it had gone through a lot of what, economic analysis, and so by experts from the universities. And these figures are aligned with the various sector actions. And so if you say appropriation, yes, it is aligned with the various sector actions. So the energy sector, the agri sector, each of them had their agenda, each of them submitted actions and budget. And we aggregated these various activities and budgets to get the sum that I mentioned. For ground level, I don't think our focus is only on atmospheric removal. We are doing all of them. In fact, the ozone-related activities are very prime of the work that EPA and then the UNDP are doing. And also when it comes to transport emission, for example, that is part of the urban heat that we are talking about, because high temperatures, they get in contact with these emissions and they have their own chemical formation and reactions that generate different activities. So transport, as I mentioned, is one of the activities that the Transport Ministry is focusing on. In fact, they have sustainable mobility. Specifically, they are trying to move from small occupancy buses to higher occupancy buses. And not just the size of the buses, but also the technology. And so moving from fossil fuel powered buses to electric vehicles or buses. So that's what the Transport Ministry is working on between now and 2030. I know some discussions have been advanced, working on about 400 electric buses. But the infrastructure that will hold these things are primary, and therefore you cannot just start bringing buses when you have no work on infrastructure. Road, the charging stations, the battery systems, when they come, how are you going to deal with in terms of their lifespan if they end their life how are you going to deal with those things? You need to have all these things in place. I was in a presentation in a summit in Kenya recently by the Ministry of Transport, and I heard a lot about what they envisage doing. And this is not just a talk, but they are actually working on this issue. So it's not just the atmospheric removal, but also the ground level, as you did mention. They are also very important. And then you were also asking about the core areas. I don't remember saying core areas, but I remember saying that there are sectors that have their activities. And so gender has their activities. There are a lot. I can't put them in my head here because there are so many of them. And so each sector has some activities. For example, at the highest level, when you take the energy, the focus is on what? Renewables and then also efficiency. And for the efficiency, they are looking at cook stoves and housing and a number of things. And so there are a number of activities from the various sectors, which I would not be able to remember all of them as I sit here. But this is how I spoke about. And then for this executive director's question, CSOs. I don't think I should have rather asked you that question, to be honest with you, because the government has announced the NDCs. They have published the content. They are creating awareness of the NDCs. And so it is up to stakeholders to also take advantage of what is in it for them and then for the economy. And so I'll rather throw it back to you and see, with your knowledge of this, what I know that you are also part of the core team, what are you doing as CSOs, taking advantage of this platform that the government and then the international community has provided? So I think, and what you are doing is one of them. This meeting that we're having is one of them, because my good friend here, we're just creating jokes here. He said, from zero, so he doesn't even know. So why should he even talk about it? So awareness is the starting point. And then from an awareness, you come to what? Capacity. And then you move on to what? Action on the ground. I think that's what I can say.
Thank you very much, though. That was a good one. So mine is, I think that when the first presenter, when he was concluding, he mentioned that Ghana has like brilliant policies, but then the challenge has been implementation. So I stand to be corrected. I'm thinking that maybe we have misplaced. I stand to be corrected, though, not humility. Maybe we have misplaced change actors. That could be the challenge. I just wanted to know. You mentioned also that EPA is more into coordination. Policy coordination, not implemented. So I just want to know if there are, the role EPA, if there are ongoing coordination strategies that currently promote gender responsiveness and in implementation. I just want to know any ongoing coordinating strategies by EPA that is promoting gender responsiveness in our policies in fighting climate change. Thank you.
Okay, so let me take this one because this question is very heavy. Before we know is the policy coordination institution in this country. They are mandated to do that, and so we need to don't misquote somewhere. For your second question, yes, we are working with the Ministry of Gender and its Department of Gender on social protection and climate action. It started as what? Creating awareness of climate change, on understand that gender and climate action, or climate action has been what? Incorporated in the draft gender policy or the revised gender policy. It doesn't end there. When it comes to coordination, they have actually also put gender as a sector in the NDC. So they are implementing an action or actions within the NDCs that is not from the EPA or from MESTI, but from the Gender Ministry, which means that if they have the requisite capacity and resources, I think they can be able to take this issue up. So there is some work, there is some awareness within the gender circles, the government-wise. For the civil society, I think they are already ahead because you have Abantu and some other institutions that were already there before the gender ministry started talking about some of these issues. And in the platform which all of us belong to, we have the CSOs and the government on one platform, sharing ideas and then also information. Sorry? Oh, it's across the country. It's not only in Kumasi. The Kumasi one was mentioned by Doug. For the rice one, it's across the country. In fact, Japan area, across the country where they have rice paddies. There are a lot. In fact, it's a project that EP, MESTI, UNDP, under the carbon market framework we are running. And it's incentivized. So farmers are given some incentive when their emissions are quantified and certified. So then they are paid with money so that they can do more. Yeah. I don't have the details because I'm not the one running the project. Yes. Yes. So you have to rather maybe find out more about it. Ask me who is the project coordinator, and then you can get more information. This is how you do it. So yes, so you come to me, and then I'll give you a lead, and then whichever information detailed information that you want, you can find out. At least I've mentioned UNDP, I've mentioned EPA, and so when you come to us, because there's a project coordinator, that's the problem. Sometimes people maybe. If you are a coordinator, it doesn't mean you know everything. You can talk about the high-level issues. And then if you want to know more, then you can be directed to a focal person who can be able to tell you more about a particular activity. And that's how it works.
Thank you. My name is Francois. So, you have...
Why are you not asking Dr. Mutala questions?
Okay, so we have that the NEC is looking at 64 million tons reduction. So I want to know, and EPA's fund or contribution to the LI 246, the LI that's going to give mandate to mine in the forest reserve, because we know that the forest is also a carbon sink. So, and the LI is going to, if they are going to clear the forest, it means the forest is not going to sequester carbon, and it's also going to contribute to methane source in the atmosphere. So I also know the EPA's stand and contribution to the LI, if you can give it.
It's straightforward. I will not respond to that. But the issue is that the 64 million tons that we are talking about covers all sectors, including the forest sector. It's estimated that once we're able to put in place certain activities, including afforestation and then reforestation, we'll be able to achieve this target that we are talking about. For mining in what do you call forest, I don't work with the mining sector, so I don't want to. EPA is big, so I don't want to actually talk about people's issues. I'm talking about climate change. So when it comes to mining issues, probably I'm not the right person to respond to mining issues.
Doctor, a very quick one.
Yeah, the truth is that my 20 years in EPA, I've never worked on any permit-related issue. And so I don't want to claim that I know when it's not within my jurisdiction. Yeah.
Please, how would the dam spillage have an impact on methane production or emission?
We talked about fermentation. And so it's straightforward. Once the water stays there longer and decay, and
What
this
are we
is
doing?
volume of
What are we
water.
doing?
See, when you do this, you don't make the conversations interesting. I'm not here to be quiz. Okay? These are sensitive national issues. So when you are talking about them, you should be very careful. So that we don't, even though we are having a technical meeting, I think some of these things we should be guided. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Doc, for your presentation. I'm going to follow up on the Ghana's energy transition framework and how our NDCs connect, particularly with respect to methane. Because interestingly, I mean, I came to be shocked when I took the document. It looked like it said Ghana has commitment to the methane pledge. If you take the energy transition framework, methane, apart from it, the formula coming in the table, it is only mentioned once in the document. So I'm asked, even with the NDC, have we been very deliberate in segregating the sectors where methane is coming from, so that we know that these are the specific areas, these are the actions that can help to reduce them? Because aside, without not doing that, we see Zoom Lions Rice Project maybe go to make a contribution. But it's not a very deliberate thing that we segregate the methane opportunity areas and also how to harness them. Because I think CSOs can effectively engage the process if these are done, because you guys have the expertise to really say these sectors are emitting methane. So if we take them out, then we can then take these actions to reduce them. And then my major concern is also how this process connects to the energy transition from. Because investment does not even prioritize methane, then we have a big gap there. And so for me, I think these are, I just want to get some reflections from you on where we are with this process. Thank you.
I think that's a very important point. But when I was actually preparing for this presentation, I was asking myself the same question. When it comes to the disaggregated information in terms of methane's contribution, and then also the effort that the country is making to actually arrest these issues. The thing is that the global pledge was done in COP26. You remember, that was a period we had already submitted, but we communicated the updated NDC. In the pledge, this and that and that, haphazard. How can we? Of course, sometimes it can also push you to do, yeah. So, yes, we've done that, but we are yet to actually do exactly what you were saying so that we can be able to get the aligned activities that will match the pledge that they have actually. We still have time, and this is what we are doing because the revised NDCs are going to start next year, 2024, and then to be announced in 2025. And so we have an opportunity to do exactly what you said. So it's a very important question. I was asking myself the same questions when I was preparing the presentation. Yeah, so once you know the activities, the programs, then you can actually link them to what? Financing. Because financing for what? You are asking for certain financing for certain activities. But if you are not too conscious of exactly what you are even going to do, then how much are you asking? And then where are you even going to ask the money from? Once you're able to know that, like the energy master plan that they have already articulated a number of laudable activities that they want to do. They want to maybe go to the DCF, they want to go to the World Bank, they want to go to this place for this kind of money, loans, grants, concessional, and then also some other equities to be able to address these issues. As we speak, we haven't done that for methane because I think the pledge, even though 2 years old, for us is still at the infantry stage. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Please, you mentioned global methane pledge. I want to hear something about
methane credits. We have carbon credits. I want to hear something about methane credit. Do we have something like that? Are there arrangements towards that?
Methane is also a carbon, so they are all carbon. Yeah, and you see, if you want to actually know maybe how much carbon or methane carbon you are sequestering or avoiding or preventing, you can only do that when the question he asked is done. We know because he mentioned rice sector, we mentioned waste sector, we mentioned a number of cattle, when it comes to livestock and other, these are gases that are largely methane gases. But have we actually taken time as a country to have a compendium of what attribution so that we can know that the 64 million tons that you want to reduce, maybe CO2 will be 34%, maybe methane will be 20%, nitrous oxide will be, let's say, 10%. That kind of disaggregation. Of course, we have some data in the national communications of some of these sector gases, but we haven't actually done in line with this NDC as we are talking about. But it's doable once you know the sources. Yeah.
Okay, so we have two last questions, and then I think Dr. Deji.
Thank you. So mine is not a question, maybe a contribution or just a comment. You know, when we do our policies at the national level, plan activities and all those things, I think we forget that everything we want to do is done on the land. And the land is not totally in the hands of the state. So we plan activities, we want to have landfills, we want to do this, we want to do that, and we forget that it requires apportioning land to it. Now, what is happening? Where I am coming from, Bono East, the entire capital of Bono East does not have any waste dump. Not at all. And I am aware that Zumlayo, it's one of the places that Zumlayo wants to have a waste treatment plant. And it's running into problems. It's running into problems because the place that was initially assigned for that project has become a kind of, there's a kind of a tug of war between two sub-chiefs, with each claiming that, you know, this is my area, and they don't even appreciate the need for such a thing. The original development scheme for the town included a waste dump. It is no more. It has been sold. They themselves sold it. That is the problem we have.
Thank you. My question is to Dr. Unkala. A question was asked about methane. Is it stored or is it used or destroyed? And the answer was it is being used by the soil. But per my knowledge, through carbon capture and storage, some of the greenhouse gases are being stored within the earth. So when he said methane is being used by the soil, I was kind of confused. How is the methane being used by the soil? So if you can clarify that. Thank you.
Auntie was a comment.
So, yeah, but let Dr. Aidan, I saw his hand, so that once we speak, then we finish the way.
I've been listening on about sources of methane emission. What I miss is human excreta. No one has mentioned that yet. We started in Ghana with 7 million. Today we are over 30-something million. Where does all that excreta go to? Does it also produce methane? And if so, what are we thinking about to do with it? Thank you.
Yeah, so if I understood you right, you said in terms of the soil being one of the sink, it is, as I said, the sinks act as more of a removal processes for the, what do you call it, for the gases. In this case, we are talking about of methane. And if I understood you, you said, I said, if we go into the soil, it gets destroyed. It gets used by the soil. Yes, in a way, that is in a form, but it's not totally being sort of like in a complete use up of the soil. It's actually the soil is supposed to actually use it because the, what do you call it, the plant, even when you have cultivations and stuff, at the end of the day, the plant also need those kind of carbon to be used in terms of its growth and stuff. So it is in a form of the plant actually needing the carbon. So no totally sort of like distraction by the soil. That's what I wanted to, I don't know if it is clearer to what you asked. For it in a form of for it to be able to grow, yeah.
So we have heard so much about the negative of methane gas. I also want us, because it has been mentioned with its uses. So you mentioned the use of methane for fertilizer. Can we also explore more what we can do? It's like recycling. Can we recapture these methane gases and use them to other profitable ventures? Is it possible?
You can actually capture it and cook your food with it. So, so gas. One of the initiatives that Dr. Aidan and his team were doing. But if you go to HSA, for example, they have something of that nature that support their kitchen. What do you call? We took inventory of some of these activities. We're going to get support from EU to do some work with the second cycle institution. For some reason, actually, it didn't happen. And it was going to be a very huge project. And part of the feasibility studies made us understand that there had been some attempt in some schools to actually use methane gas for cooking. The sustainability of it was not there. And so some of them got destroyed along the line. And the infrastructure or the structures just got destroyed. And so it can be used in a number of ways. That's why we said, apart from it being dangerous, it's also very important. We mentioned the fertilizer plants that I spoke about. I'm talking about also it can be used for cooking, generating electricity, and so important gas. Yeah. Let me go back to the point Antiama said. It's a comment, so I won't respond to that, but it's a very important. But when she was talking about this issue, it got striked because some of these interventions that we are talking about, we need space in terms of land, and land rights are critical. And so maybe we have to take this into consideration in our next consultation. I just noted it, yeah, because it's very important, especially when you're talking of projects that need huge lands to be able to come up. And so I think it's a very important one. The land people, Darren and his team, for example, the forest sector, for instance, if you are looking at carbon credits, the cocoa sector, for instance, if sometimes there could be litigation, for instance, who owns the land? Is it the person who worked on the farm or the farmer, the landowner? There are so many litigation issues when it comes to land-related issues. So I think it's important this is taken into serious consideration when maybe the next cycle is being discussed. So thank you for.
Large-scale investment in land, and it is alarming. Because I also went to the commission, it's alarming. You go to some communities and chiefs are just giving out land in the name of investment. Meanwhile, the Act has prescribed limits to how much land an individual can acquire, a firm can acquire for whatever purposes. You see, and somehow these are not perfect. So the chief goes because it's a too land, and then he says, all of this area is mine. Irrespective of whether there are communities that have dwelled there for so many years, and you keep the land out, people are coming to see the threats to landless communities. It's looming very high. And it is the same piece of land that we need to work on. So I'm glad you noted it for the next round of consultation.
Thank you. So the last one from my side, are you taking the human expertise?
To just contribute to what she said. So yes, I agree with the issue of the land issue, and just an experience to share with the project in the Kumasi. When we started the project, there, when it comes to some of these projects, there is an issue of not in my yard syndrome, where people are afraid to actually have such facilities in their communities. So a lot of sensitization needed to actually go into the community, which I think maybe the CSOs need to actually take it up. Because the people understanding of some of these projects, like somebody will say that, why are you sending 1D, 1F to other communities and you are sending Bola to my community? But at the end of the day, there are additional benefits. So one of the things that we needed to actually do to be able to identify key traditional members within the community, as well as government entities, to be able to even send them abroad for them to see similar facilities in the developed world, so that when they come back, they will be able to actually defend what their people are actually against. So I think that the CSOs needs to do more. We know that attitudinal change is something very difficult, but I think that going forward, more of our energy should actually be directed in that direction.
Okay, so then let me also take it from there. It's a very important point. And so the CSOs, we beg you, help us to do the right sensitization. But I'm saying this because sometimes we over state or analyze these issues, and this is largely orchestrated by the CSOs community in their quest to protect the communities and then the people. Sometimes, and please, I'm choosing my words carefully, sometimes they over. I sit on the DCF board, and projects are approved. There's a line of criteria that a project has to go through before it has to be approved. And in most of the cases that in my 2-year experience with the board, largely about 80% of the comments coming from the CSO is negative. Negative in my perspective, because they will go maybe listen to 2 or 3 people, and then instead of maybe looking at the bigger picture, they will be actually dramatizing the issue. Sometimes there are genuine concerns that they are also talking about, which one has to also take time and then take it further. I haven't seen that in Ghana anyway. I don't know whether your comments, you send it to a narrative. I think we have to do it in a very positive manner so that we can promote Ghana exclusively. There was an issue about the human excreta. Doc, I think if you're looking at, maybe I did mention about the institutional effort. It is acknowledgement of this, that the schools wanted to use their toilets for these biogas issues. So it is something that is serious, especially when it comes to the cities. We all know, sorry, where in Accra these things go, for instance, and it's not the best way to handle some of these issues. So maybe it was not consciously mentioned, but it's something that we are aware of. Yeah. I think I am done with my questions. Yeah.
So mine is just a contribution, and then maybe one response to your this. And Jama talk about the traditional authorities. Yeah, even yesterday at Cape Coast, we were formulating a national proposal. I did mention that the sub-national level, the municipalities, the district assemblies, it will shock you until I go there to know that even though I didn't do any scientific study, if we should go, so the people were like, what is NDC? You see, so, and you, meanwhile, these are the levels where implementation is going to take place. The MCs, the DCs, and what have you, know nothing. Sorry to say that. Then the most powerful people there, the elected assembly members, trust me, like you are saying, when anything happens, the media people go, the assemblyman or the woman is called. When he or she talks, finish. The unit committee chair, or you don't have the how powerful they are, but they have no knowledge. You see, so we need to actually do the sensitization seriously. Then, look, the GCF Rio plus Rio Principle 10, 11, 22 made it very clear that public participation in environmental protection, international, whatever, what have you. So therefore, when the GCF was being created, 2010, Mexico, it was very clear that the board will have a balance of developed and developing countries and global North CSOs and global South CSO representatives, right? Then there is an admission process. So once that admission process, you qualify, you've gone through any project that is submitted to the board, that project will have to go through some level of what is the word? On the ground consultation. That is why the GCF itself went further to say that in some cases they want a data sheet of your underground, your stakeholder consultation, where on their own they can take a phone and look through the list and call from Sondo to whichever village that the project is supposed to take place. So for us in Ghana here, we have been, let me borrow, they were very charitable to whatever projects that we submitted. Because when the project gets there, especially the Forestry Commission one, the day it was put before the board, copy was sent to Hatton is an admitted observer to the GCF. So we had a copy. We went through so that okay, we are consulted, everything is fine. So there's no worry about that. But again, just as you said, you see, I keep saying that sometimes the awareness is created from, excuse me, also to use the word, an ignorant position. So that in the past, there is this antagonistic relationship between government and civil society. And it was it, Professor Gordon said, either you or Professor Gordon said, it was you. When you say you went to Latin America, you saw the relationship between government and civil society. But unfortunately, these Northern people, then when they see it, they say we should fight you. Then you fight, we fight you, because you are also ready to fight us. So I think once the knowledge is, when you are getting the knowledge, you will then understand that once you have the capacity, some of the things you can write. If I want to attack, I'm using the word carefully, I'll write to the sector ministry or whoever is in charge that this is the position of Hato on this thing that you are talking about. If you respond, fine. If you don't respond, then we can come to public. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let me quickly, I won't comment on that because it is views. But I want to talk about a very important thing that you mentioned in it first, is about the awareness part of the policies that we come out with in this country. It's so sad because we live in a country where we are interested in apportioning blames. And that has been our bane from day one. Instead of we looking at what can we do to make things work better as a country, and it cuts across all facets of our society. The NDCs, the NAVs, for example, awareness creation is a continuous thing. There have been some serious awareness creation about the NDCs. In fact, engaging assemblies on NDCs. Sometimes when we are even done, we suggest that because the representation may be 3 or 4 people coming from the assembly because of resource challenge, let us take this information to our DPCUs, those who benefited, take advantage, and then start at your level to also create, if you think this is very important. We've done for water aid working communities. They are having about 13 assemblies at the northern sector. We've done for UNCDF assemblies, there are about 13 assemblies. We've done with Action Aid so many awareness creation activities on the NDCs, to be precise. The issue is that even at the sectors in the country here, people go for meetings and they think they are the bona fide owner of the information they got. So when they finish with their meeting, the information stays with them. Even within their own office, nobody gets to know what they went there to learn. And this is a culture that is prevailing in this country, that we need to actually find a solution to that. Otherwise, we will spend money, we will make progress. We will come back and talk about the same thing. The assembly ground is a bit rough because of the attrition rate. So when you talk of the level, the higher level, I can understand because MCs, DCs are changed very frequently. That's why it's important we keep on doing that. But the DCDs and then the planning officers, for example, had been bigger beneficiaries of this process across the country by different actors. It is either we don't prioritize these issues because maybe we don't know how important it is for the development at the local level, or maybe we want to be seated there every day for somebody to come and tell us. I think much as we acknowledge that we need to do more because there's still awareness gap that we need to fill, but we cannot create the impression that nothing has been done on creating awareness on the NDCs. It's done by different donors through the EPA, through other civil society organizations, through MESTI, through Water Research Institute, through CSIR. A lot of the institutions are doing these issues. And so we can encourage them and then also try to probably see where the gaps are. But we shouldn't have the impression that maybe learning for me is a dual process. If the learner is not interested, you can be in the classroom and say everything with all the formulas. At the end of the day, you have not impacted. And then also sometimes the learner will be willing, but the teacher also the knowledge is not there or is not also willing to give. And at the end of the day, you cannot say you have a party. It is only when the two meet and there's an agreement, then we can actually make progress in this process. So, Doc, I agree with you. Sometimes we should also query them a bit because I have a list of, since 2019, the people that we have engaged in this country about the NDCs. Don't forget that
boss didn't like you. And there's a meeting, there is a you go. Because when the person goes, he or she comes back, the boss doesn't ask you whether what happened. You see, so sometimes the issue is that people who a boss who doesn't like is sent to a meeting where the person, that is what somebody said.
Yeah, I'm not just I agree. Even for the assembly, for example, when they are throughout, will not even come to the conference room. Oh yes, I think we need to diagnose this problem holistically, and as a country, we see what best approach can we use to be able to address it, so that we stop this blame game issue. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so a quick one. One of the reasons for this is the high transfer rates within the assemblies. But so, for example, if he goes to, so the current planning officer for Soga Company, he's been transferred to Hogway. So if Doche go there right now and goes to it means a totally new person who say he doesn't have any idea about the entities.
So it balances out. Once it's in the country. Yes, because unless the transfer is happening outside Ghana. Outside Ghana. Then I can agree with us.
Doc, you see, the challenge is that my worry is that why is the planning officer who have been given that knowledge? We have a 261 municipality assemblies. Now, when you take the medium-term development plan, these are people that have received some level of training. But you take the medium-term development plan and you just oppose it with what, at least in terms of environmental management and the rest, it doesn't follow. That is one. That recently, a year ago, NDPC came up with another guideline on biodiversity that should be mainstream into the medium-term development plan. Okay? Because I was with the Qatar Municipal Assembly, have a working relationship with the Amnoga and then the Ketu, I was able to go there personally to talk to the planning officer, guide them to do this. Even I have to do a write-up for them to do the incorporation. Now, when I've done a work for one of the international organizations, when we went around from Aflawu to Zilesu, you take the medium-term development plan. It was only our mission, Sama, who the planning officer was in a better position to respond to the issues that cut across. So
I know the terrain of this country. I know every corner. It's the work I do. Very recently, Marilyn obeyed me out in where the hotel where Castro his own residence are done, for example. I was there a whole week with over 150 assembly people, not just awareness. Guess what they were taken through step-by-step approach to screen projects, to conduct vulnerability assessment. Maybe you go tomorrow and then they will say nothing has happened. We haven't done anything. So they are making the work extremely difficult, honestly.
Okay, thank you so much. Please, let's clap for ourselves. We've done so well. For our presenters and respondents, we've done so well. So it's time for us to go for break. We've sat for so long a time, so we have to go for coffee break. But before then, let's first of all take a good picture, because some may be leaving us, so we need to have them in the picture before they leave. So quickly, we'll go out there to the front stage to take the group photo. Afterwards, we come back for our coffee, and then we come back again. We are doing all of these in about 30 minutes maximum. We are going to take this out because the room is not through here, right? Do we have enough light? It's okay. Is it okay? All right. Once the photographer is fine, that's it. We need enough light. So what do we do with this? Do we take it down? Or it should be? All right. Okay. Okay.
Let me help them.
Hi. It is working. It's not working.
All of mangrove harvesting in Fuvme community in Volta region of Ghana. Through participatory approach, the baseline rationale behind mangrove harvesting by the community members were identified.
Mangroves are tied in bundles with prices ranging from 5 cedis to 20 cedis. Community members use mangroves as firewood for domestic cooking, building houses, and smoking fish as it gives a great aroma. This is a major concern as the rate of harvesting of the mangroves is not monitored and streamlined to ensure its sustainability in the face of climate change.
With that being said, it is important to sensitize the communities to the risks associated with unselective and excessive logging of the mangrove.
We are now privileged to meet organizations like CASA Initiative Ghana, Arocha Ghana, and the Keta Ramsar Center representatives, spearheading activities related to mangrove restoration and livelihood empowerment programs. Stay with us to explore the various activities implemented by these organizations in restoring degraded mangroves and building community resilience to climate change.
I'm the Executive Director, Health Foundation Africa, and together with our partners, Africa Center for Energy Policy and others, we are committing this week and the entire month for energy dialogue and discussion on energy transition and climate action. We are engaging actors in the West Africa sub-region, including Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Ghana, and other countries. And our idea is to promote conversations, promote dialogue on energy transition and climate action. What it is that each and every one of us contributes one way to emissions, whether through electricity, through cooking in the house, or heating. What sort of energy are you using? And how is it contributing to emissions and climate change? These are the discussions we are having to promote climate action, to promote collective action at the individual level, at the institutional level, at the national level, and at the sub-regional level. Stay tuned with us.
Hello. There is a global call. There is a global call for us to be sensitive to the climate and save the planet for the future generation. And, you know, all of us have been advocating for us to align, government, civil society, citizens to align. In our context, what we're trying to do is to go beyond the talk and also try to experiment the technologies that are available to enable the average Ghanaian or citizen of Africa to transition. So in our office here, we're trying to go 100% renewable. So we have over 100 panels on our roof, averaging about 80 kilowatts of energy. We're hoping to increase that to 100 kilowatts in the next couple of months, and also store as much power as we can through the panels to be able to smoothen our demand. On electrification also, we have a couple of electric cars that we're trying to experiment how it works. So we're able to talk about the technology from an experience point of view, and not just the theoretical presentations that we see online or in the news. So we have EVs in our office that we are experimenting and using, assessing how it works, how it adapts to our context, and also challenge industry, particularly those who are thriving in our space. There are a few companies that are assembling electric cars. So we can share from policy angle what the challenges are and what improvements are required to make them even better than the internal combustion engines that we are used to in our context. So that is what we are doing, trying to be part of the solution and being as practical as possible so we can exhibit the solutions that are available for us to change our attitude and actions to save the climate for the next generation.
Are you Ethel? IBDM? Oh, this banking. Nigeria for banking. Chairman, please close the gate. Close. Access Bank. Hold your number now.
My name is Bright Elikem Agbagba. I work with the Africa Disability Institute, formerly Voice Ghana. I am in charge of monitoring and evaluation. Africa Disability Institute is a disability rights.
Aisha, what may to that do you now you're fast you're fasting? Aisha, you're fast you're fasting. Aku is saying. What's up, Jana? Friend.
So today what you would know that the state tax has 8%.
Mama, you. Also, would you put your number? Yeah, 50. Yeah, pursue your person. W 044 10 5 Yo, quite a bit From Prince. Tia to Zap never the bank. We are fast in New Year. You are sick.
Yeah, so today's workshop with civil society looking at this issue of and we all know that methane gas has close to 80% contribution to emissions more than carbon dioxide. And then our methane is contained in so we need to understand what we need to do to ensure that we are able to reduce
Advocacy and Research Institute that champions the rights of people with disabilities in Ghana and across Africa. So I want to say that the rights of people with disabilities must be prioritized in the energy transition and climate change policy process, because these are the most affected people in our country. Therefore, I want to say that their rights must be prioritized. Thank you.
You've been gone, it's an empty home. Come on back where you really belong. You are always welcome home, welcome home.
We would design a bone well. You've
been kept much too long.
Language and another channel.
Don't forget you are welcome home, welcome home. Come with me on this happy trip back to the promised land.
So today's workshop, we are practicing like
come with me.
so today's workshop, we are practicing
on this happy trip back to the promised land.
you are aware that I think that outside. We also know that our water will start ocean. We all need to understand how to take care so that we can contribute in our own way to addressing the issue. We will need to understand the mechanism, and we also need to understand what activities need to maintain that emission so that we can all and addressing issues of climate change. We encourage you to join us. We are still live on the Zoom platform, virtual participation, and then also we are live on the you can be part of this process. Thank you.
Exactly.
There is a global call for us to be sensitive to the climate and save the planet for the future generation. And, you know, all of us have been advocating for us to align, government, civil society, citizens to align. In our context, what we're trying to do is to go beyond the talk and also try to experiment the technologies that are available to enable the average Ghanaian or citizen of Africa to transition. So in our office here, we're trying to go 100% renewable. So we have over 100 panels on our roof, averaging about 80 kilowatts of energy. We're hoping to increase that to 100 kilowatts in the next couple of months, and also store as much power as we can through the panels to be able to smoothen our demand. On electrification also, we have a couple of electric cars that we're trying to experiment how it works. So we're able to talk about the technology from an experience point of view, and not just the theoretical presentations that we see online or in the news. So we have EVs in our office that we are experimenting and using assessing how it works, how it adapts to our context, and also challenge industry, particularly those who are thriving in our space. There are a few companies that are assembling electric cars. So we can share from policy angle what the challenges are and what improvements are required to make them even better than the internal combustion engines that we are used to in our context. So that is what we are doing, trying to be part of the solution and being as practical as possible so we can exhibit the solutions that are available for us to change our attitude and actions to save the climate for the next generation.
My name is Bright Elikem Agbagba. I work with the Africa Disability Institute, formerly Voice Ghana. I am in charge of monitoring and evaluation. Africa Disability Institute is a disability rights advocacy and research institute that champions the rights of people with disabilities in Ghana and across Africa. So I want to say that the rights of people with disabilities must be prioritized in the energy transition and climate change policy process, because these are the most affected people in our country. Therefore, I want to say that their rights must be prioritized. Thank you.
But why don't you know find the only one, so they are not giving us processes, yes.
Population is increasing. We are doing more agriculture. We'll be raising more livestock. And all that. So as for the methane production, it will increase. What do we do to? Yes. Manure, organic manure, and all that. But we are not exploiting to the maximum, not even to 50%. Not even to 50%. Yeah. Okay, that's what you do. Okay. Because, there was a time where they talk about secondary schools using their waste to generate biogas and all that. And for me, I was so happy about that if all the secondary school institutions we have in Ghana, we convert to biogas. Okay. Not maybe around, I would say 80. I want because that your conversation is live. It's live.
Come with me on this happy trip back to the promised land. All will be happy and
There is a global call for acts to be sensitive to the climate and save the planet for the future generation. And, all of us have been advocating for us to align, government, civil society, citizens to align. In our context, what we're trying to do is to go beyond the talk and also try to experiment the technologies that are available to enable the average Ghanaian or citizen of Africa to transition. So in our office here, we're trying to go 100% renewable. So we have over 100 panels on our roof, averaging about 80 kilowatts of energy. We're hoping to increase that to 100 kilowatts in the next couple of months, and also store as much power as we can through the panels to be able to smoothen our demand. On electrification also, we have a couple of electric cars that we're trying to experiment how it works. So we're able to talk about the technology from an experience point of view, and not just the theoretical presentations that we see online or in the news. So we have EVs in our office that we are experimenting and using, assessing how it works, how it adapts to our context, and also challenge industry, particularly those who are thriving in our space. There are a few companies that are assembling electric cars. So we can share from policy angle what the challenges are and what improvements are required to make them even better than the internal combustion engines that we are used to in our context. So that is what we are doing, trying to be part of the solution and being as practical as possible so we can exhibit the solutions that are available for us to change our attitude and actions to save the climate for the next generation.
My name is Bright Elikem Agbagba. I work with the Africa Disability Institute, formerly Voice Ghana. I am in charge of monitoring and evaluation. Africa Disability Institute is a disability rights advocacy and research institute that champions the rights of people with disabilities in Ghana and across Africa. So I want to say that the rights of people with disabilities must be prioritized in the energy transition and climate change policy process, because these are the most affected people in our country. Therefore, I want to say that their rights must be prioritized. Thank you.
You've been gone and been long. Come on back where you really belong. You are always welcome home, welcome home. You've been kept down for much too long. Stand up, please, and say I am free. Don't forget you are welcome home, welcome home. Come with me on this happy trip back to the promised land. All will be happy and gay. Come with me on happy trip back to the promised land. All will be happy again. You've been gone, it's an empty home. Come on back where you really belong. You are always welcome home, welcome home. Come with me on this happy trip back to the promised land. All will be happy Come with me on this happy trip.
Forward, 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 take it forward.
Continue our journey by unraveling the rationale of mangrove harvesting in Fuvme community in Volta region of Ghana. Through participatory approach, the baseline rationale behind mangrove harvesting by the community members were identified.
Mangroves are tied in bundles with prices ranging from 5 cedis to 20 cedis. Community members use mangroves as firewood for domestic cooking, building houses, and smoking fish as it gives a great aroma. This is a major concern as the rate of harvesting of the mangroves is not monitored and streamlined to ensure its sustainability in the face of climate change.
With that being said, it is important to sensitize the communities to the risks associated with unselective and excessive logging of the mangrove.
We are now privileged to meet organizations like CASA Initiative Ghana, Arocha Ghana, and the Keta Ramsar Center representatives spearheading activities related to mangrove restoration and livelihood empowerment programs.
I'm the Executive Director, Health Foundation Africa, and together with our partners, Africa Center for Energy Policy and others, we are committing this week and the entire month for energy dialogue and discussion on energy transition and climate action. We are engaging actors in the West Africa sub-region, including Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Ghana, and other countries. And our idea is to promote conversations, promote dialogue on energy transition and climate action. What it is that each and every one of us contribute one way to emissions, whether through electricity, through cooking in the house, or heating. What sort of energy are you using? And how is it contributing to emissions and climate change? These are the discussions we are having to promote climate action.
Another equally excellent moderator. We have to will be a very short presentation of the TII itself, that Cleaner Impact International. This person is presenting on GII's case study on community level methane emission and management. Community level methane emission and management. We are told that GII conducted some case studies, some local communities with regards to, please come in front. This officer who sees that event in front of the yes, so that we have, yes. So without wasting much time, I will call on Mr. Timothy Akienti. Yeah, Timothy Akienti from GII to take us through the presentation on their case study with communities and methane management. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and good afternoon to everybody here. As Mary introduced me, I'm Timothy Akieti, and I'm presenting on behalf of my colleagues, Mr. Kasim Gausu and Mr. Jason Mawina. Now, this is a special study that was done some months ago. We actually started in July and ended just September. So it's a baseline study. Let me lay the foundation. It's a baseline study. So we're not going to be technical, because the technicality aspect of it has already been handled by Dr. Mutala and Dr. Buesiako. Now, this is going to be the outline for the presentation. We're going to have a short introduction, then we go on to why this study on methane in Ghana. Then we also look at the methodology, then the areas of concern for advocacy, the findings, and then we also look at the NGOs. What is it that we are supposed to harness, capture, and then take it to the people going forward? Then we'll finish with the conclusion. Now, most of my introduction, as I said, have been fortunate enough, have been more or less well said by experts, the scientists. So I'm just going to sometimes skip over some of the things. Now, to begin with, climate change is an important issue of our time. It's been said over and over again. Let me reiterate that because of its importance. Now, the main drivers of this change, environmental change, is the greenhouse gas emissions. And the chief one among them are carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and so on. Now, this situation is causing enhanced greenhouse effects. So the whole thing is that the greenhouse effect is obviously bad, but when it becomes enhanced, that is where the problem comes in. And this is affecting the life of different ecosystems. And so you go to the literature, some ecosystems are on tipping point. Others have completely gone extinct. So discussing climate change, therefore, is very, very important. Now, methane is the second most abundant. We've already known that this morning after carbon dioxide. And therefore, it's important that we look at the methane gas also with the same enthusiasm that we take for the other one. Now, the levels of methane are now more than 2 times what it used to be pre-industrial level. And the literature suggests that the past 5 years have seen 3 of the 4 largest annual increase in history. So it means that something is happening now, 2023, with methane emission. Now, it's also estimated that methane contribution to the greenhouse gas buildup in the atmosphere is between 15 and 45%, which translates to about 1.1 degrees Celsius warming since the 19th century. And mitigating methane, therefore, is central to dealing with climate change. Now, methane gas is also central to the general well-being of the whole society, you and I. How? Because it's associated with also pollution in terms of our water, our air, incidence of diseases, And even environmental effects, it affects the beauty of the environment when we talk about methane. Ensuring a healthy life is thus intrinsically linked to minimizing human-induced methane emissions. Now, in Africa, I think oil and gas plays a crucial role, it's been said already. But in Ghana, because of our infant oil and gas production, more or less at the infant stage, other sources have been more preeminent in terms of emitting methane than oil and gas. And so the study therefore focuses on agriculture, waste, biofuel combustion, and other sources. Now, we have three main objectives going into the field for our work. The first one was to identify the major sources of methane in Ghana with the study areas as our focal point. Then also to investigate existing policy initiatives and interventions that are already in place to mitigate or reduce the emissions. And look at finally to examine levels of exposure that communities, you and I, sometimes we talk about community and our mind is drawn into some people in the village. No, you and I are also exposed to. Now, these ones have already been said over and over. So I only talk about agriculture as the main human-induced source of methane gas. And it is estimated that it produces about 145 metric tons of methane. Now, please go back. What is important here is that with agriculture and to Ghana, we are looking at agriculture in terms of cattle rearing and manure management in other livestock, like poultry, piggery, and so on and so forth. Then we come to energy, that is the coal, natural gas, and so on. It's followed by that one is about 129 metric tons. Then landfills and waste, very, very essential for us here, because some literature over a period of time have identified this particular cause as a major important emitter of methane in Ghana. So we will look at landfills and also look at general liquid waste treatment plants. It was already mentioned about toilets, what is being done. So it's also an important emitter of methane. Then biomass combustion, I think Dr. Nchibu showed us the burning of the forest. All these contribute to methane emissions. Now, why methane study? And the first point has been said over and over, but let me repeat some of them. It is an important heat trapping gas, very, very potent. And you've been told this morning that it has about 28 or so times potent than the most abundant, whether that is CO2. Secondly, the chemical reactiveness of this particular gas make it very important that we talk about it. And what do we mean by this? It's been said that it is a short-lived climate change gas, I understand, and we all have known that. Then it also has a peculiar characteristic. It's able to react with some atmospheric components to produce more greenhouse gases. So under oxidation, this gas particularly reacts with to produce further carbon dioxide and more importantly, ozone. And this creates lots of tropospheric ozone. That is what we normally talk about, smoke. And it affects our health and so on and so forth. Then another reason why we went into methane is the environmental health issues associated with it and also aesthetics. And then also in recent, since 2021 with the Glasgow conference, it has become more or less, it has come to the limelight that methane is as important as other greenhouse gases. So these were some of the reasons why we ventured into methane study and then to give you this report. Therefore, the significance of the study stems from the following co-benefits that
Methane mitigation has critical role in achieving temperature targets. The second one is also to reduce methane recovery means that we have clean energy also at our disposal. And also, it will also help us reduce deforestation. So instead of relying on coal, charcoal, and so on and so forth, go on to these clean energy sources to help our environment. Please, let's go on. Now, in undertaking the research, we looked into the literature. We took an initial survey in some of the districts. Now, we realized that there are two districts that were of importance to our case. The first one was Ghana Methane, and which is in the Greater Accra region, and in Saoma municipality in the eastern region. Now, the Saoma is about 23 kilometers away from our national capital and covers about 175 square kilometers. Then the municipality has a total population of about 150,000. That is based on the recent population and housing census, out of which about 49% male, 51% female. Then this particular district or municipality is largely urban. About 62% inhabitants live in what we call urban centers, and just about a few, about 13% live in rural. So as we go into the main thing, our findings, let's take into account the characteristics, these population characteristics of this particular municipality. Then, as part of our work, we wanted to really find out how could we look at one of our major sources of methane in Ghana, that is waste. And coming through the literature, we realized that it's possible to find an estimation of waste that is generated by any particular district. So just taking into account each of us, looking at our urban nature, we produce 0.6 kilograms per waste a day. And you just multiply by the population, you get the amount of waste that is generated by a particular district. So for Samadweji, it's about 93.4 tons per day. Now you just multiply this by the number of days in a year, and we took the normal one, that is 365 days, and we get about 53,582 tons of waste coming from Samadweji alone. Now we go to the next municipality. Please, let's take notice of especially the waste generation estimation. We'll come across it in our main findings too. Now, the Ghana Methane is within the Greater Accra region. It covers an area of about 70 square kilometers. Then the municipality has male about 49%, female 50.6%. And the municipality was also largely urban. This is actually more urban than the one we found, that is the Samadweji, with about 85% people live in urban centers. And then so spending 3 months in a particular district, understanding how they understand or perceive that particular thing we are talking about is very important. Then also, not just what we hear from them, but what we also observe, also a part of our report. Then we use purposive sampling method. That is what we use to select the two municipalities. And the first one, as I said, we combine through the literature and doing our own initial assessment. We realized that the Ghana Methane is so critical in one sense. That is, there are a lot of projects where biogas is being used by households, industries, and even schools. So we realize then we have to go into that and see how it offers opportunities for wider Ghana to emulate. Then for Samadweji, we also realize that Samadweji has two important landfill sites, that is final disposal sites. So these are the two main things that
we considered before we picked these two. So it was strategically chosen. So we used purposive sampling procedure for that. Then, in undertaking the project, the procedure for data collection, we used semi-structured interviews. So we visited some of the organizations, the Zoom Lion, our mother waste collection company. Then Waste Landfills Company Limited is actually a sister company of Zoom Lion, which is not dealing with collection, but managing landfills. That is the disposal side of the collection. Then we also visited or spoke to some of the departments of agri operatives in the municipality. Then we also visited slaughterhouses. Somebody may ask, why slaughterhouses? It also releases a lot of waste, right? So we also visited some of them. Then we spoke to some community members themselves for their own opinions on the activity going on. Then the data sources we use primary, we'll share with you, and then some of the secondary data, we visited the internet for peer-reviewed articles. We also relied on reports by some of our state agencies that deal directly with waste and with climate change. Our key findings. Now, I know we start with transfer station, but before we go on to the transfer station, we found two things. The first one is that you go to Medina, they are trying to eliminate community dam sites, right? Where open dam sites where people just go and down. So they don't have any, in terms of collection of household and even commercial waste, they don't have any open dam sites. That is to them. So many of the things that the waste that is generated in the households and the commercial centers, like lorry parks and so on and so forth, are done by Zoom Lion Company Limited, and also many of them by the informal sector, those who use tricycle. And what these collectors do is that there is a place in Gais municipality. That is where all the waste taken from Medina by the tricycles, they dump the waste. Then Zoom Lion, this transfer station, it gets to a particular quantity. Zoom Lion uses what they call compaction trucks, huge trucks, to then send it to the final disposal site. So that is why we have the transfer station there. It is located near Pantana Hospital, Gais. And when we visited there, we realized that a day they take over 100 tricycles of waste. That is what they take. And this amounts to about 3 different compaction trucks, which is estimated to be 72 tons a day. And when they do that, they send it to the final disposal site. We then went to the final disposal site, and that is where one of our main study area was. That is Adipa and Isumia. Now, both final disposal sites are in Sawom Adweji municipality. Now, we realized that within these two landfill sites, Adipa is the largest and has more or less modern technology infused into their operations. So we paid our attention to Adipa. Now, I went to the Adipa landfill site and we found that it's about 150 acres of land with depth ranging from 3 to 6 meters. Now, the other thing too, which is also commendable that we found, was that the site has 2 main zones. An old dam site, which is not in use. Then right beside it, we have a new dam site, and which is more engineered landfill site. And it is very, very important. The old dam site is about 6 meters deep. The engineered land site is 3 meters deep. Now, we then looked at the engineered land site. It has well installed liner.
So the entire area has an installed liner. Part of it is exposing them. And if you take the site, the liners have pipes that draw all the liquid from the landfill site into a dam where the water is now treated for other uses. So it has the site, if you look at plate 4, where there is a pump which draws the water from the site. And then also in terms of fire management, because talk about landfill site, the major cause of emission from landfill sites are cracks within the landfills, causing the gas from the landfill to flare. Now there is gas vents. For that matter, the heat in the landfill site is well managed. So we don't see much fire outbreaks in the area. So then the other thing too is the area is well secured. So we don't have many people going there for their own activities. So there's more or less absence of fire, which is a very good thing when you talk about emission. Then the site receive waste from about 31 MMDAs from both Ghana, that is Greater Accra metropolitan area, and part of Eastern region. And takes an average of 792 tons of waste a day. Then a monthly one is there, and then a yearly tonnage of over 200,000 tons. Then this is what the site is doing. We wanted the component of this coming from our state areas. So that is there. For Nama, that is Lankwantana Medina, it is 32 tons a day, and a yearly average of about 10,000 tons. If you remember, when we saw the estimates, what we are supposed to generate and send to the panel site, just around 50,000 tons. So you ask yourself, where is the rest going? So if you see places getting damaged or waste getting damaged, partly it's part of this. Then for Nama, that is in Sawama Dochi, it's also 34 tons a day that is received. Now, taking them cumulatively, realize that about 51% of the waste generated in Nama and 20% from Lankwantana Medina go to the final dam site. And when we went to the municipal assembly, these are the only 2 dam sites. The Sumia and then Adepa. Adepa is several times larger. So there's no way they could even take the 20%. So it means that there is still a huge gap. People are not sending the waste they generate in their household into the final dam site. Then it affects our environment. Then there is also flaring of the gas. I told you we have vents. And the vents, whatever we do, we are not capturing. In fact, they said that some companies have already been there wanting to capture, but they look at the economics. They do most of the arrangements and then they stop. So we're still flaring the gas that the gas vent is pumping out. And it's all amounts to methane gas being channeled. Now, Ghana's largest source of atmospheric methane, that is landfill, and it contributes to about 43%. Please don't be confused. This one is 2018, 43%. And then the focus of Ghana, that is looking at this messy document, please go back, is that our issue with waste is collection and overall waste landfill management. So we are not, as a nation, looking at how to capture the biogas or the gas from it for our energy use. Then we went to Lankwantana Medina, as I said in my initial remarks. Now we realize that they have lots of waste to energy strategies or projects. So we visited several of them, visited about 4, but here I presented 2. There is an important one at the Bosheba market, those who know Medina. And this facility is located at the heart of the market.
and it was established for commercial purposes to provide market women and men them with some of the energy needs. And what do? They boil water for anybody who wants to buy, to bath, and so on and so forth. And the installation it doesn't have any storage system where the gas that is generated is stored for future use. So what it does is that it taps directly, then it digests it, and then straight into the burner. So that is what you see. So you see the plate 7. That is the design. So right from the toilet, it is sent straight to the burner for the use of members who patronize. Then they also said that every 2 months they dislodge. And when they dislodge, they don't have enough energy to pump into the energy. So what they do is that they take sawdust to continue production. Now, there is another waste to energy project that we visited, and that is in Medina also. And it's in a school. When Dr. Njiboesiak was talking, we talked about plans to even target secondary schools. This one is a basic school, Umar Ben Khattab Islamic Basic School. And it has a total population of about 1,000 people, including pupils and teachers. And there was this biodigester project sponsored by Lancaster University, and it was installed by CSIR under the Red Circulate project. And this project started in 2020 and completed in 2021. And the facility has 3 chambers: the tank, that is the inlet tank, the digester, and the outlet tank. Now, what is it that the energy from this particular biodigester is used? One, they established a very well installed science lab where they use the gas to boil water for scientific studies for the students. And also it generates the light you see there in the picture at the left top corner. It's all powered by the biodigester. So that is one thing that is so laudable going on in Medina. And one of the things that the headmasters told us when we visited was that through this program and the school itself can reduce. So there is huge co-benefit for all of us to enjoy if we were to invest in methane. In agriculture, there was a general problem with that. Now come to that. But we visited some cattle rearing crowds in Medina and Lankwantana. But then both municipalities had major animal sources that produce methane, and they are there and said already. However, some of the crowds are sitting right at the banks, and sometimes they don't even be 5 meters, whatever. The banks of either the Densu or tributaries of Densu, and we all know the implications to downstream communities who may not even process the water for use. Then another waste challenge is the dam disposal when it comes to the livestock. Sometimes they said, oh, every 2 weeks we sweep. But you look at the thickness of the dams in the crowd, sometimes you question them and then you just want to save their face. High bio-organic waste piles up over time, they generate lots of waste, lots of methane. They also visited a piggery at Adipa, same place. But this piggery is about 1.5 kilometers away from the town, and also had a very nice environment. However, in the chambers where the pigs are, all the waste are swept down. So you look at plate 11. You look at the right, the corner there. There is a hole.
all the waste every morning is pumped outside, and the outside is what you see there. Please go to the next slide. Now, it is then channeled through a gutter into a swamp. And you all know over time, the swamp becomes over fertilized. Multiplication takes place, becomes fertile ground for methane emission. Then, so that was apart from the manual practices and the main issue when it comes to our study. Then we also visited we found only one fish pond within the municipality, and that fish pond was located for the weeds as the tool that we also witnessed were cleared. So there was fewer chances that it's a good ground for methane because it is lodged, and then also always make it clean for the fish. Please go to the next one. Now, what we did, what are some of the exposures that communities were at risk of? So you see place 14, open outside. And this one is just close to the fly. If it rains, the water that runs from there to people's houses. Very good grounds for place 15 also has to do with the abattoirs, how they and the smoke coming from there is continuously inhaled has lots of health implications for communities that live along. The fish ponds also have grounds for mosquito infestation, and definitely. Then the last one, you open that side, you see it's also right at the bank of right all of it goes into the river. Now, for us, our role is to sometimes show this of agencies in terms of awareness creation, in terms of doing some projects. So it's something that we have reconsider as CSOs. Now, what are the challenges that we face? That I believe some of our organizations want to go into undertake a project to be similar. It's data acquisition. The municipal assemblies, sometimes the data there, so you have to be wait to know what to do with either not. So that's a challenge. But bear in mind, we have ethical issues. If we don't take our time and we hurry future research by issues also restricted us from coming out before any approval is given. Then the challenges with the data that you have. Now, one thing that I would like to share with you is that went to the land side, the final dam site at Adipa. Because of that, some NGOs came there, published almost. Because of that, they had to go to Accra to take through a period, and so what to even publish. So it's just a plea.
sometimes we are in a haste to publish anything, but think of the repercussion and future research. And also the perception of officialdom the moment we hear NGO. Oh, you have gotten your fund and you are doing your project. So it is something that they could do for you. Sometimes they drag their feet. So it's something that we all want to begin to undertake research as we will do other people.
No, yes. Exactly. Okay. So that yes, that would be good. So please let's give that for him. This is a very interesting research that has been conducted within the communities. Unfortunately, for one of the special communities, we are so much aware of that, especially the women that have Islamic identity. Some of you already have, I would say, authentic research that he has channeled as far as, in fact, the woman with Natal Islamic Basic School is concerned. We are very much aware of that. Do we have any person questions for him? Okay.
Measure the methane emissions. Very important. If you did not.
So that's one question. Who else? So that we pick three at a go. Come again. Who has a question?
So please, so I think under the data collection, I saw you one of the instruments was interview. And earlier you had stated that your results, your methodology had like 1% in women. I just wanted to know how being women, you mean yes for the municipalities that you're engaged in. Okay, so I just want to know how it reflected in your interview, just for the purposes of the parliament.
The third question.
Okay, so who is related to the text of the projector, the presence of NGOs in the methane space? Did you categorically go to investigate if NGOs in those municipalities are for you to arrive at this conclusion?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me take the first one. The estimation, methane estimation, we didn't do any estimation. So that is the first, yeah. And then for the gender, yes, almost all the municipalities, we had more females than males. Yeah. Now, our work was mainly to rely on the official sources. So, municipal environmental health officers, the agric officers. So we spoke to some who were women, but our data was taken in such a way that we didn't take notice of percentage of women that we spoke to, percentage that we spoke to. Because we didn't go into it targeting a cross-section of people, right? Our work was to look at the sources of methane, what is being done. So we relied on official sources. And we interviewed some people who were women, some were men. Especially you go to Medina, the agric officer there is a woman, right? You go to Zoom Lion, I spoke with the one in charge of communication, who is also a woman. So yes, some of them were women. The farmers we spoke to, there was the Adipa piggery. Yes, there were the one who was managing the place is a young lady. So some were women, some were men. But that wasn't our focus. Okay. Right.
So please, I was saying that in all humility, since it was like percentage-wise, the women had like a greater force. So maybe in your subsequent, data collection, you want to give a priority to women.
to get a balanced result. Thank you very much. And then the last one, yes. The point is that we didn't go, the NGO aspect was part of our objective to really look at what the NGO is doing at the local level, right? So all the places that we went, including the assemblies, we asked them how many NGOs have they been engaging with in that space, right? And almost all of them virtually nothing. So I even thought that some of the projects that we even visited the Franco, Johnny Food and Meat Company. Yeah, and the installations there were done by CSIR, including this one at Tuma Benita. So NGOs present, though it wasn't our main thing, it was part of our focus. But whoever we asked during our project, our work, didn't have any NGO present.
That one, that cannot be. And if it would have been good to say maybe that wasn't your focus. But if you say whoever you asked did not, there are, especially the women that Hatchel as my NGO were part of the process from scratch to where it has gotten to. Okay, we did all the advocacy work, engaged all the communities, did all the things. What CSI we had to actually do the advocacy to give way for CSIR to be able to start the project because I mean having gas on the surface, you know, we are used to the one that is buried. I don't know the technical term for that. But the issue was this one was a very new project which we haven't done before, and the gas is just one would say, for lack of a better word, on the surface, not underground. So people were quite skeptical. So we have to do the stakeholder engagement within the communities to get them appreciate the new technology that is coming up before it was actually started. So we have NGOs, if you are doing projects of this nature, maybe you should focus on that if you really want to have a say with regards to the NGOs involvement in that.
Yeah, let me come to that, please. I think, no, before you come in, let me address, you know, the issue is that is why, you know, in research, you have to be careful what you say if you are not sure completely. And that is why we say low NGO presence. It didn't mean no. And for Umar bin Khattab, I spoke with the headmaster. Low, that's what is there. So low.
So I even wanted to the sources that you are going to get data on NGOs who are in that space. It's even wrong. The assemblies are not
hopefully, with the support of my staff, qualification to understand what we want to teach. They should not bring people that they find when they are coming to the meeting. So thank you very much.
I just want to add a few. So we'll be closing very soon. We have like 15 minutes spot. So I want you to use 5 minutes each. But Lucas, I want you to touch, we mentioned sources of methane, and you even mentioned that there are some CSOs that are undertaking certain activities that have methane benefit or methane benefit. So by way of, expanding our knowledge on such activities in your next message. So I would like to say the solution to addressing methane emission, and that is what CSOs do. Of course, there are, besides the global convention, there are also policies, look at government policies that are in place. That will look at what government is already doing and work on that. But before I came in, I was talking about some solutions. There are biogas systems available, household biogas systems, institutional biogas systems. Those people who are working on open defecation advocacy work and health, they could advocate for the installation of biogas systems for such households and it could be helpful. I know there are engineered landfill sites, that is both government and municipal level intervention. In the agri sector, there is composting and there is adding certain feed additives to cattle. Feed has been known. Rice farming techniques, it's called alternative wetting and drying water management system can help. So those working in the rice sector can also educate their people on that. There are CSOs working in animal husbandry, and there is, of course, for this, there's a need for more studies to be done on if we are working in cattle. Apart from biogas systems, which we see as the biggest solution to methane mitigation in the local community. Are there any other interventions that people do? There are innovative wastewater management systems. So in Denmark and Germany, my trip there are ways that wastewater is treated. Very simple, reed bed systems, and then other technologies that can help mitigate emissions in the municipal waste treatment. When there is waste, and if at our waste segregation system, very simple waste segregation system like in your house and in the community level. How do we separate organic waste from paper, plastics, and others, and be able to utilize the organic waste for composting? Simple composting systems and others could also be helpful. And so these are a few solutions apart from that are in the oil and gas sector that my brother has already spoken about. So when we understand the solution, then CSOs can now give CSOs. What do? We advocate and build capacity. All right. So in our advocacy, when we understand the solution, we go now bring it into our advocacy. We are the ones who meet the communities and talk to them, or bring government to book on some of the actions and commitments they have made. So when we understand the solution, then we can advocate. I think that Hatton's establishment of the biogas system in the school is a very good platform to bring people together around it and say, this is the solution. Can we replicate this in many schools? And just to end by also talking about what the Institute for Sustainable Energy and Environmental Solutions we are doing in our so we have an office at Medina. Thank God, there are 2 areas of research, and we are based there, and we are building a school, a campus within in some teacher Manti at the moment to train people. We have run several courses on biogas systems, which is for maintaining renewable energy and biogas systems. And then we have about 3 or 4 research technologies within the campus that we are studying its emissions and various feedstock that can help reduce biogas. So we are working on engaging the district assemblies very well so that we could communicate outside. Now we establishing over there. So I don't want to go advocating when you cannot see results. So we want to bring them to our training centers and be able to see practically. So I'm sure in the next 5 years, which is very far, you will see the Center for Sustainability within the Teacher Manti, Macron area, where you will not hold this workshop in Accra, but you come and hold a workshop there and then do exhibition. And you know that I'm somebody, wherever we go, when I was in Accra, you will see my exhibition things outside at every workshop by force. So that is where you could see some of the demonstration technologies we are talking about and how we can practically reduce emissions. So I'm thinking that there are very simple things that you and I can do. And with this awareness, go start working on waste segregation. In your house, transform your septic tank to biogas system. Please reach out to the Biogas Association of Ghana. They are available and they are very much willing to promote biogas systems. So the solutions are available. CONIWAS, those working in water and sanitation, those working in agricultural sector, those working in, but I see that we are doing it, just that we are not aware that it's within emissions reduction that we are working on. So your next study should look at what are the methane emission points and what are the solutions, and what are CSOs doing in these various sectors that contribute to methane reduction, and then use that to do another advocacy like this, so that CSOs will be aware. When I'm working on water and sanitation, I look at wastewater management and I see that, somebody is using, and then there was 2 questions I want to close with. He said biogas is a business, and he said, how can we train more people to take biogas as a business? So as CSOs, when we are doing our capacity building and the activities, let's add some technical training to it, so that at the end of the day, when we train people, let them begin to think that now there's high level of unemployment, think business, and add entrepreneurship training to it. So that when the person comes out, he can create a business. There are a lot of opportunities for startups. If you have a startup business and you are not working with it, just see us at the Institute. We will help you in 1 year raise funding and be able to bring your startup business or idea into reality. And then also the last thing is that biogas is used in transport, is used in like electricity, is used in cooking and a lot. So methane can be harnessed for a lot of positive actions. And I think that we should begin to think about this and be able to help address the solution.
Thank you. Yes. So, less than 3 minutes.
I always talk from the private sector point of view. To me, it is an industry of its own. It is not something to be written on. It must be implemented. So that's the angle I'm looking at. Now we can write all the books we want to write. But the final point is that it must be implemented. It must have action plan to it. So please, NGOs, I am available anytime you want, be it in my office, complex, wherever you invite me. I'm prepared to share my information with you. To me, it's a business, and I'm living on it. Big time. Biogas Technologies Africa Limited. I consult with the World Bank. I consult with the UNDP. I consult with Africa, all of them. And I'm across the whole continent of Africa. And I'm prepared to share the information. It is not only writing, but making it work. And I'm there for you.
Yeah, so quick one. In responding to our sister's question, I think one of the things that let me still emphasize, you see, all the things that we are talking about, if there's no money, even though some does not need money, but if there's no money, it will not be implemented. Yes, so let me say that, you see, in 2007, when the Red Plus issue started, 5 of us, we met the World Bank in Indonesia. Then we informed them that, look, local community people are involved in conservation. So if you make only the resources available to government, then the local community people or the CSOs are always being disadvantaged. Then they asked us we should give them a proposal. So that proposal led to the establishment of the dedicated grant mechanism for local communities and indigenous people by the World Bank. So the point I'm making is that, yes, I quoted Paris Agreement, Article 2.1, paragraph 1C. Now, we are talking about loss and damage. How do we make a case to the convention that, oh, don't make available the money to only government? Let us also create, this is our proposal to create a window for us so that we don't have to go through the complex process of accessing the money. If we fail to do that, they will still make the money available to only government and will be struggling to go through and get the money. So if we are not willing to make a proposal to say that, oh, yes, we are talking about methane. How do we convince the world that, oh, the local level people are interested in looking at methane as business, but they will need startup capital. So if you are making money available, this is our proposal. Let the money come directly to the local community people. This is the channel we wanted to, the governance of the money. If we are able to do that, then we are relieving ourselves of only talking without doing action. I think one clear example is the global biodiversity framework, for which the youth, my deputies in the African rep, which they make a case to the CBD convention that, look, you can't give the money to only the government. Give them. We are also doing this. Give us the space. Give us the money so that we can also do these things at the community level. And once that is done and is part of the agreement, then you don't have to struggle. But if it is not done, then we'll continue struggling, we'll continue talking, and maybe we'll wait for Jesus Christ to come. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, panelists, for a good job done. It's 2 o'clock, and unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know how to do summary. So you summarize for yourself all that you have heard. So I'll leave it here. Mary Jane, please kindly close us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you, panel members. Please, you are discharged. Please, let's give it up for them. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes. So we are all too soon. We are done. We want to thank you so much for your time. But we've been here this morning. Some came as early as 8:30. You've been here till now. We say 7. Yes. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please, let's give it up for her. She was here at 6 something. Yes, exactly. Thank you so much. And we're really sorry for keeping you up to this time. Our intention was to close it before this time, but we thank you for your time and your patience. We still see a lot of people in the activeness, in the discussion, and all of that. We are hoping that this is not going to be the end of the discussion with regards to change. Climate change has come to stay. The gases are there. We're talking about CO2 all the time, CO2. Now we've been opening up to methane as well. As civil society organizations, I think there are lots of opportunities in this space. And then like Dr. Aidan and Dr. Doche and Globals were saying, in fact, if we want to take this issue of methane up, as far as we are doing the advocacy and awareness raising, the business aspect is also there. We can also take advantage of. So we shouldn't lose sight of that. And then moving forward, we are going to go to COP28. And some of the discussions that we've held here, there are some of us in groups in groups, just in groups and networks that we belong to that are putting up position papers and all of that. There are lots of discussions here. Dr. Doche mentioned that if you don't advocate for your issue to be part of the text, finances will not be made available to you. And so agriculture became